What's going on everyone, and welcome to the fifth tutorial in the Python intermediate series. In this tutorial we are going to look at lambda functions. These are also called as anonymous functions. So first let's understand lambda functions and then we'll look at where we can use lambda functions. So the first thing we'll do is create a function that squares a number. So let's say def, and let's say the function name is square. The function takes one parameter and then we just return the square of that number. So this is a really simple and basic function. So let's call the function. So let's say print and the function name, and let's say 2, and let's run this, and sure enough we get the square of 2, which is 4. So this is a really simple and basic function. So we are just defining a function and then returning a value from that function, and you can see we are using 2 lines of code. So another way to do this is to use lambda, and it only takes 1 line of code. So now let's see how we can do the same with lambda function. To use a lambda function, the first thing we want is the name. So let's say the lambda function name is s and then equal to and lambda. So lambda is a keyword, and after the lambda function we have the parameter. So let's say x and then colon, and after the colon what we want to return. So we want to return the square of x, so x into x. So this is a lambda function. This is the function name, or you can also think of it as a variable, then the equal to sign, and then the lambda keyword, and then you define your parameters. So similar to regular functions, we can also have multiple parameters in lambda, but we will look at multiple parameters a bit later. And after the parameter we have the colon, and after the colon we have what we want to return from the function. So I can return anything that I want. I can also add phi to the expression if I want. As long as the expression can fit on a single line, the lambda function will work. So let's call our lambda function and let's see if it works. So to call a lambda function, it is similar to a regular function. We have the function name and the round brackets, and inside the round brackets we pass the parameter. So in this case the parameter is x, and we are going to return the square of that parameter. So let's change the parameter to 5 and let's run this, and you can see it works. The square of 5 is 25. So lambda allows you to write simple functions on a single line. You can also do complex operations with lambda, but you're mostly going to use lambda with simple functions. So let's clean this up and create a new lambda function. So let's say the lambda function is add, and after the equal to sign we use the lambda keyword. And now instead of a single parameter, we'll take 2 parameters. So let's say x comma y, and then after the colon we'll just return the addition of x and y. So let's say x plus y, and inside the print let's call our function. So let's say add, and let's pass 2 parameters, so 1 and 1. So let's run this and let's see if it works. And sure enough we get 2, so 1 plus 1 is 2. So this is how we can use multiple parameters with lambda functions. Also similar to regular functions, we can also use default parameters. So let's say the default value of y is equal to 2, and let's say we don't pass the value of y, and let's run this, and you can see we get 3. So 1 plus 2 is 3. So lambda functions are really similar to regular functions. You can also use a lambda function inside a regular function, but as I said, you're mostly going to use lambda functions for simple tasks. You can definitely use them for complex operations, but then the lambda functions can be hard to understand. So now that we understand the basics of lambda functions, let's look at lambda functions with map and filter functions. So lambda functions are really useful when using filter and map. We have already looked at filter and map functions in the previous tutorial. So feel free to watch that tutorial if you don't know about map and filter functions. Anyways, let's clean this up and look at some examples for lambda with map and filter. To use the map function, we need a list. So let's create a list X with 10 numbers. And 10. And then we can create a new variable. So let's say new equals list and then map. So generally the first thing we pass inside the map function is the function name without the round brackets. So let's say func. And the second parameter that we pass is the list or the tuple. But when using lambda, instead of the function name, we can directly pass the lambda function without any name. So let's say lambda and then the parameter. So let's say the parameter is n, and after the colon we can just return the square of that parameter, so n into n. So when using lambda functions with map, we don't need to use any name. We can directly pass the lambda function without any name, and that's what makes a lambda function an anonymous function, or also called as a no name function. So let's print the new list and run the code. So let's say print and new, and let's run the code. And sure enough, we get a list of squared numbers. So I hope you can see why lambda functions are really useful with map. Now let's do the same with the filter function, but instead of returning a value, we need to return true or false. So instead of returning n times n, we can return n less than 5, and we also need to change the map to filter. The filter function, as we know, only adds to the list when the function returns true. So in our case, when n is less than 5, it will be true and the element will be added to the list. And if n is not less than 5, it will be filtered out. So let's run this and see if it works. And you can see we get a list of numbers less than 5. So let's change the condition and let's try it again. So instead of less than 5, let's do mod 2 equals 0. This will just check when a number is divided by 2, is the remainder equal to 0? And if the remainder is equal to 0, the lambda function will return true and that element will be added to the list. So let's run this and see if it works. And sure enough, it works. We get all the even numbers that when divided by 2, the remainder is equal to 0. So you can see why lambda functions can be useful. You can use them in other functions easily, and lambda functions can also be used without a name. So that's all about lambda function. We also looked at how we can use lambda functions with map and filter. So that concludes the tutorial. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments below. And as always, thanks for watching, subscribe if you learned something, and see you guys until next time.